Ed Robinson, who's with the Harpswell Heritage Land Trust. He came and did a slideshow with his first book back before...
Yeah, 2019 BC.
Before COVID, right.
It seems like it's BC.
Volume 1, and you said it's in its third printing.
Yes.
Nature Notes from Maine, River Otters, Moose, Skunks, and More. And the second volume we're celebrating today, Puffins, Black Bears, Raccoons, and More. So it's some beautiful photography, and I won't make you wait any longer. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you very much.
Happy to hear what you have to say.
It's nice to be back in the Carrabassett Valley. Today we're going to talk about some of the special creatures in Maine, and it's an interactive presentation. I'm not just going to give you a lecture, so if you have questions, go ahead and ask the question. If you want to tell us a story, we'll listen to your story too. So the thing about Maine is that we have fantastic diversity here. And it's not just all of the land creatures, but we've got all those creatures that hang around in the ocean. And for us moving here, we're both from Western New York originally, and we lived in England for many years. It's just fascinating to see the range of creatures that are on offer here in Maine, anywhere you go. Some of them are quite visible. I mean, these are species that we're used to seeing fairly regularly here. I haven't seen any larch trees here. I assume you have some, or tamaracks, maybe you would call them. But in general, you're going to see these creatures pretty regularly. But then there's other creatures that aren't so common, like the kingfisher. I actually saw one the other day up on the Dead River. I was pleased to see him flying along on the side of the river. Frogs, unfortunately, they're not so visible as they used to be. They're in trouble population-wise. Raccoons, of course, are nocturnal. I was lucky yesterday up on by the fish hatchery to see a Cooper's hawk. He was swooping down along the road, obviously hunting for ruffed grouse or something. But that's not a bird you commonly see. They're very secretive. Porcupines, of course, they're all over, but normally we see them dead on the side of the road. And then, of course, the lovely common yellowthroat, one of the prettiest little birds, but they hang around in thick cover, so you've got to be paying attention to see them. And then there's creatures that are generally not on view. The ruffed grouse, unfortunately, not many of them around this year. It was a poor nesting season with all that rain we had in the spring. And I've only seen 2 or 3 birds driving around up here, so that's too bad. The salmon, landlocked salmon that you have in the upper left-hand corner, of course, at the small stage, they're not too visible. They're hanging out in our streams before they mature and move up into the lakes. This lovely meadow vole, you see their destruction more than you see them. They're the guys that are chewing on your plants in the winter. And leaving bare stalks in the spring. And then, of course, the cats, the big cats of Maine. We'll talk a little bit more about them as we go along. I'm going to start the presentation with the puffins. And I put them on the cover of the second book for the simple reason that everybody loves puffins. They're beautiful little creatures. They only stand about 8 inches tall, so we're not talking a big specimen here. But my goodness, they have a huge fan club. Before I put the presentation together, I went online on Amazon and searched for puffin products. And thousands of things came up. You can get pot holders, you can get aprons, you can get plates and mugs and bowls and games. It's amazing how many things have puffins blazed all over them. They used to nest on a number of islands off Maine. About 22 islands apparently. Now there's only 6 islands that have puffins nesting there, and not all the time. So it's getting harder to find them. Maine Audubon just celebrated 50 years of effort bringing puffins back to Maine Island, particularly focused on an island called Machias Seal Island. That's off the coast of Maine on the border with Canada. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. These birds are really fascinating to see. My wife and I had the opportunity to spend a day on a boat out on the water out of Cutler, Maine, far down east, and we saw literally thousands of them, along with lots of other ocean-going birds, of course. Like the loon, they're very heavy, and these guys have very short wings. You can see they don't have a lot of lift there, so they have to run along the surface like the double-breasted cormorants or the loons do to get themselves airborne. Once they are in the air, they can really zip 40, 45 miles an hour, even without a wind pushing them along.